opportunities in the branding field is something which you will have to seriously understand, listen to it carefully. This is very important for all of you. I'm taking one more minute towards this because, you know, your institutions exist only if there is money. And for getting money, most of the private institutions really need good admissions. Admissions come to you only when you do really good things about the students and their welfare and the teachers and all the stakeholders' interest is taken care of. So, how does that admission happen? How do you project yourself to the world is so very important to you. And so please write down notes which would come from the very learned members here. That is my request here. So there are certain basic rules that each person will get 2 questions each, not at a stretch. 1 question for all and 4 minutes to answer. And I may be a teacher. Okay? So if it goes beyond 4 minutes, I may please tell you, sir, madam, in a gentle way. So don't get me wrong for that. 4 minutes, and then I would pass it on to the other 2 people to add their views to this question, maybe a minute more, so that the audience is going to get a comprehensive view of those questions. This is point 1. Then once the cycle is complete, the second round of questioning will happen. So I am going to start my questions with Mr. Ravi Deshpande. Here, the first question that I would like to ask you is, how can educational institutions leverage the power of branding?
Can you hear me? Yeah? Right. So yes, as the ma'am said right at the beginning, that education institutes shy away from branding themselves. It's also a lot to do with the way our own narrative has gone about for many years. You know, education institutes have been seen as a sacred place. Well, if you're good enough, if you're great, people will come to us. You know, how does it matter when we create any branding or any brand advocacy? And it doesn't really matter. Let's just keep doing our job and things will happen. Now that was great. That was great, but only until a certain time. As you would observe that nothing you buy or nothing you consider without being familiar with it somewhat, you know, whether it's a clothing brand or whether it's a airline brand or whether it's anything, or phone brand, anything that you choose to invest your resources in, you want some familiarity with it, right? Without which there's no deal, there's no purchase, there's no persuasion. Now, we live in that sort of world which is full of brands and full of stories and propositions created by brands. I think education institutes can't be away from it anymore in a highly competitive world, because there are a number of education institutes mushrooming. There is a little bit of facelessness to it because everyone offers certain streams of education and you don't quite really know in which direction you should go or which education institute should you create, should you sort of consider. So in that sense, you must have a compelling value proposition, and that has to be in place. Now it could come from either your faculty or your deep research or your campus or all of it put together. But there's got to be a really strong value proposition. Followed by that, you kind of take some kind of inspiration and build a compelling visual identity. Because today, like I said, in the blur of things, in the blur of many education institutes and what they are staring at you, screaming at you, and you're no longer competing locally. I mean, there are Australians, there's Canadians, and there are UK universities, and there are European universities. So in this sort of ocean of choices, how do you sort of distinguish yourself? So you gotta have something that starts to get assembled as a powerful story, a powerful narrative, and a powerful visual language. Now, be it in terms of colors or a graphic symbol, and how do you carry forward once you create that identity into the minds of people, into the environment, into the campus, into your digital medium, and how do you sort of stay connected with the audience with these multiple touch points to be able to have a strong memory, that strong value proposition, and most importantly, a fabulous narrative. If you give me 2 more minutes, I could go on, but I'll just hold here back.
Okay. So, you have heard Dr. Ravi saying that, there are very crisp points to remember why we should leverage the kind of a branding activity. Your institutions are living in the midst of competition. Several institutions are mushrooming up. So how do you stand out in the crowd and achieve the goal and purpose? Okay, so what he says is that you have to create a value proposition. He also is talking about a visual identity create karna padega, and a powerful narrative for your own institution is required. So these are some of the 3 to 4 reasons why you should leverage branding. May I know your views, sir?
Thank you very much. First of all, I must thank the MGM for inviting me here. It's a rare privilege. I had heard about this institution, but I had never visited it. You have created a brand, but I don't agree with it. We are in a monopoly market. We don't sell. When you go to buy a refrigerator, the shopkeeper tells you, this is good, this color, which color do you like? On the contrary, I ask my buyer, my research scholar, भाई किस पर PhD करना है? ना इस पर नहीं करेंगे, चलो ये तुम्हारा कोई टॉपिक ही नहीं है, कोई तैयारी नहीं किए हो, और वो कहता है नहीं सर प्लीज आपके सिवा कहाँ जाएं? We have a monopoly market. Education is monopoly market. We don't sell. Even though we are paid, we don't sell. I don't agree completely with the idea of branding in that sense. However, we are in a global market. Education is the largest sector. There is more money changing hands in education than any other sector. We understand. So, when it comes to creating India as a brand, India as a market for education, internationalization of education, if I discuss that, I'll have a different take. But then otherwise I would believe. द्रोणाचार्य किसी को कहने नहीं गए थे मेरे पास आके हमसे पढ़ो, आकर के उनके दरवाजे बैठे थे। पिपलाद के आश्रम में वाइस चांसलर्स गए थे कि आप मुझे अपना शिष्य एक्सेप्ट कर लीजिए, और पिपलाद ने यही कहा था 1 साल रहो, देखेंगे कि तुम मेरे शिष्य होने लायक हो कि नहीं, और तुम तय करना कि मैं तुम्हारा गुरु होने लायक हूँ कि नहीं। तो यहाँ ब्रांडिंग की बात नहीं है, यहाँ तो ज्ञान की बात है। तो अगर ज्ञानी है तो बेचने की जरूरत नहीं है, अपने आप बिकेगा।
That's really a very, very different outlook towards this. Dr. Sharma says it's not a question of branding, it is a question of acquiring knowledge and how you acquire it and what you do with it. And he was quoting about Dronacharya and the examples that people followed them without any kind of a brand. That is very true. But unfortunately, sir, beg to differ that there are no Dronacharyas today. We don't have Dronacharyas. So even the teachers today, they have to brand themselves. That I am a good teacher, I am a physics teacher, I am so and so, I am so and so, whatever it is. But whatever said and done, there is a point in what Dr. Sharma says, is that more than education is not considered, even by the Supreme Court of India, it is not considered to be a commercial activity. But unfortunately, education has become a commercial activity. But he says the root, the message of that, at the heart of heart, it is jnana, it is knowledge. That's what Dr. Sharma wants to add. May I know your views, ma'am?
All right. Interesting viewpoints, both of you. And I would agree and disagree with both of you to some extent. I think I agree with the fact that there is a lot of noise, and therefore some standing out becomes important, right? And how do you stand out? By the quality, by the value proposition, by how people recognize you. That becomes important. I think the reason why many of us in education are also very wary about the word brand is because sometimes it is a lot of noise without substance. So there's a lot of brand, but inside there's nothing to sell. And it appears that if you can create an attractive brand, you can attract people, but you don't necessarily deliver on your value proposition. So I think as an educationist, I would focus on the value proposition and then a means of communicating the value proposition among the noise that exists. And that was how I would like to.
That's a very beautiful answer, I would say, very well said. Actually, the value proposition, you know, today, just a small example, if I say parents admit students into schools by looking which is the best school, awarded as the best school by some Hindustan Times or Education World or something like that. Do you think they really go into the depth of quality? No. But really great parents admit their children. That spreads by value, word of mouth. You know, the parents talk about, ye acha school hai, either admit kijiye, udhar admit kijiye, students ko. So that value proposition comes through word of mouth when they take it into the heart. That's what Madam is saying. When the value comes into the heart of the people who are the consumers or customers, then that automatically creates a brand. That is also a very, very important, and you know, there is a lot of digital noise happening around today, and so that is also a point we have to look into it. But at the same time, branding per se, be it knowledge proposition or value proposition, or creating a compelling narrative about the whole thing, is a point which we all can look at and take it in the branding exercise. All right? All right? Okay. Now we will go to the next question. The next question is so many papers. Kya kare? One paper is done, so let it be. The other question goes to Dr. Sharma. Sir, you have worked significantly in the area of inclusive education and vocational training, like the ITIs. Okay? Is there any scope for projecting the work or branding in both these sectors? And if yes, how do you think, sir? Because this vocational training is a very important area now as per the NEP. But as Madam said, the skill development we were discussing, she was mentioning about blue collar jobs, etc., etc. So people have not that kind of a very high opinion about ITIs. Okay, so how do you think, and also inclusive education, differently abled children and their education. So inclusive, you have worked extensively in those areas. Hence the question to you, do you really think that this inclusive education and the vocational training in the ITIs, etc., do they need a facelift through branding?
I completely agree that skill education as well as inclusion. When I say inclusion, I'm not only talking about the disability sector, I'm talking about all sectors, but I'll confine myself to disabilities. Both these sectors were neglected. We never looked at the skill development as an important component of education. We had this small component by the name SUPW, socially useful productive work. Every child had to do some handwork or something. I had to make a sweater. My mother made it for me and I went and submitted it. So I was so-called expected to be knitting. When we were writing, I must share with you, I was an integral part of the National Education Policy Writing Committee, and I was spearheading the two areas of vocational education and non-formal education. It will be a slightly long story, ma'am. And I traveled across the country, asked children, what do you want? What do you want to change in the system? And I have narrated this story again and again and again. My wife is sitting here and she says, I have almost memorized this and I got fed up because I talk on online. I went to Ranchi DPS. I quote this so that you trust me. I went to Ranchi DPS and I asked the students of 9th, 10th, अगर तुम एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर होते तो क्या बदलते? मेरी वाइफ बैठी है सरिता मुस्कुरा रही है कि फिर वही कहानी, लेकिन आपको ये मजेदार लगेगा। तो एक लड़की सामने बैठी थी जहाँ मेरी वाइफ बैठी है अभी, वो कही कि सर अगर मेरा चलता ना तो मैं केवल डांस करती, मुझे बड़ा शौक है। तो मैंने पूछा डॉक्टर राम सिंह से कि ये कौन लड़की है, तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये रांची के 2 लीडिंग डॉक्टर्स की सिंगल चाइल्ड है और पेरेंट्स चाहते हैं कि डॉक्टर बने क्योंकि उनका बड़ा नर्सिंग होम है, वो टेक ओवर करना चाहते हैं कि बच्ची देखे। वहां से मैं गुवाहाटी गया और गुवाहाटी की गवर्नमेंट गर्ल्स स्कूल में गया, वहां भी लड़कियों से यही प्रश्न पूछा और एग्जैक्टली सेम जगह पर बैठी हुई लड़की बोली कि मेरा बड़ा शौक है डांस में, मेरा चलता तो मैं केवल डांस करती। आप में से पता नहीं कितनों ने रजिस्टर किया कि मैं नेशनल ओपन स्कूल का चेयरमैन था, जिसके भारत भर में सेंटर्स हैं, 30 लाख बच्चे हैं और उनके लिए मैं तय करता था कि उनका करिकुलम और सिलेबस क्या होगा। जो इस कहानी का सबसे मजेदार पक्ष है वो ये कि लंच में जो टीचर कोऑर्डिनेट कर रही थी मेरा विजिट, उन्होंने कहा सर मेरा भी फर्स्ट लव डांसिंग है, आई एम अ प्रोफेशनल डांसर, आई गिव पब्लिक परफॉर्मेंस बट फॉर माई लिविंग आई टीच केमिस्ट्री। व्हाट अ शेम। आज मैं पहली बार इस रूम में बोल रहा हूँ मैडम के सामने में। शी इज 57, 58, शी हैज नाउ स्टार्टेड लर्निंग डांस। Somewhere this girl also had that passion और अब ये पिछले 1 साल से डांस सीख रही है। ये स्कूल में क्यों नहीं हो सकता है? और डांस के दुनिया में दुनिया को हमने जितना योगदान दिया है किसी और देश ने नहीं दिया है, क्यों नहीं बदल सकता है? सिमिलरली स्किल, आइकिया के फर्नीचर आपने सुने होंगे, कहां से आता है? स्वीडन से। 1.5 करोड़ आबादी का देश है, पूरे दुनिया को फर्नीचर बेच रहा है। हम 142 करोड़ का देश, एक भी आइकिया खड़ा नहीं कर सके। हमारे करिकुलम की कमी थी। जब मुझे ये दायित्व मिला नेशनल ओपन स्कूल के चेयरमैन का, आई सेड लेट अस ट्रांसफॉर्म दैट एंड आई मस्ट से this was an idea of the Prime Minister. This came from the PMO, that PM wants it. And I looked at the curriculum of ITIs and said the NIOS will collaborate, let them do all the skill courses from ITI and the rest courses from NIOS. NIOS. So they do 3 subjects from ITI and 2 from NIOS through distance mode and get a 10th or 12th pass class certificate. Would you trust they were never considered equivalent to class 12 pass? Why? What do we expect of a 12th class pass? Let us give them the opportunity to do it. Similarly, what is the corpus of knowledge in dance? Let us identify that, make it equivalent to a class 10 curriculum syllabus and let both of them do it and say somebody, he or she is 12 equivalent in dancing, agriculture, carpentry, whatever. That has now become part of your national education policy and what we were talking this morning. There is no difference between curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular. So, What we thought and wanted in the national education policy is let all subjects, all areas of knowledge, not subject, not all areas of knowledge be equivalent, identical, and let all children pursue these according to their inclination, competence, and get certified. Who are we to decide?
Sir, you are right. So sir is saying that there should be a curriculum delivery equivalent to all subjects irrespective of whether they are extracurricular activities or skill development activities or major subjects. I have a question to ask you in this. Let us assume that, how many of you are parents here? Suppose, imagine that you have a student in 8th standard or 9th standard. Would you send him to, I'm not, no disrespect to NIOS, I respect it. Would you, given an option, do you send your students to NIOS or a regular school? I didn't hear you. Huh? But he is giving an equivalent, very good curriculum, which I am convinced. Because if you go to the syllabus of NIOS, it is beautiful. It is done very well. But still, why are you not going into NIOS? What is it? How the branding is projected. Because, sir, I feel anything good in this world, this is my understanding, even if it is, because we are living in such an era, sir, even if I am good, unless and otherwise say that I am good, people are not ready to believe it.
Look, we have deviated from the skill question. Madam has asked
skill is there. Skill is there. You have said about the
now if you
curriculum.
ask me about the branding of NIOS vis-a-vis other regular boards, I will have a different take on it.
Yes, sir.
आप में से किन लोगों ने एक एडवर्टीजमेंट देखा था 10वीं बार फेल 12वीं पास करे NIOS से? पिछले 4 सालों में दिखा है क्या? 1000 FIRs कराए हमने देश भर में, स्कूल प्रिंसिपल्स को पकड़ के जेल में बंद कराया, फाइन लगाए, और आई मेड इट श्योर कि मेरे एग्जाम सेंटर्स पर नकल नहीं होगा. All I have to say is the system of open schooling was never taken seriously.
Okay.
One, and even though I come from the public sector, I confess, I see in television screens and all platforms, it was one of the most corrupt institutions of the country.
Which one, sir?
As chairman of NIOS, I recommended CBI inquiry, and that inquiry is still going on.
Good.
Because the system slept. It's a robust system, it's a very powerful system.
Okay.
Every year, NIOS sends more students to IIT than any other single board, not even CBSE. People do not mention that I study from NIOS, but they take admission in a regular school and also in NIOS, and they get into IIT because of NIOS results.
Yes.
Now, this is a very different question. NIOS slipped. Nobody cared about it, not even the government, because it suited all the corrupt officials of the Ministry of HRD. I have absolutely no hesitation in saying. I have stories to share.
Sir, I'm so
what
sorry.
I will say is, no, don't say that NIOS people don't prefer, because I can tell you names of cabinet ministers who have come in hiding and appeared for exam in my office. हम आपको सेंट्रल मिनिस्टर्स के नाम बताएं जो NIOS के 12th पास है.
The question is not about NIOS or anything. The question is about NIOS, ITI. They are brilliant courses, and whatever they are giving is hands-on experience to students. We would love to have them. My point is that the sector has not been given enough significance. So
brilliant system, but slipped.
Yes.
The government never cared
I
about
would
it.
like to ask you, Dr. Ravi, your views on it.
I need to make one correction. I'm not a doctor.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So,
Sorry.
I mean,
Oh, no worries, no worries.
You know.
So in future, all the best to you.
No, it's all right. I mean, it is what it is.
Sure.
So,
Every intellectual doesn't require
Sure.
so sir, so here is again, like that lady said, and there's a powerful narrative sitting here, but it's poorly marketed. There is the point is not about making education institute or education cosmetic, frivolous, in your face, versus clarifying it, structuring it, and then creating a very dignified advocacy.
Yes.
That's the point about branding. It's not about Maggie kind of branding. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a very powerful, all these elements that existed in the past about the education being sacred, relentless effort put by faculties years after years, an institution is created which has delivered over the years for wonderful things in the form of great students,
Yes.
alumni, and they've gone on to becoming presidents of the country or whatever. But even then, now, like for instance, American University talks about alumni. It's in a way which is brand advocacy. It's every success that comes out of your institute, if it's neatly bundled up in the universe of subtle branding, that will just benefit you for. And you're not bullshitting. You're just stating your facts, but in a very elegant, very professional way. There is a physicality, and then there is this whole digital universe now. In the physical sense, also how your university appears, how classrooms are, how people behave, the entire body language in a physical sense, as well as digital sense. With your, say, virtual tours or how it appears in the digital space. Like the other day, just if I take 1 minute detour, a friend of mine was telling me a story, very interesting one. She said a niece of mine, she was having a conversation with her niece, and she was saying, I had gone to institute to pick up some information brochure. And this little kid was perplexed. He said, why do you have to go to Education Institute to pick up something? Isn't it there online? She was completely unaware of the fact that you do physically go knock the door, hustle, and then, get an admission. So we have entered into a whole different universe now where everything is virtual. And then there is a dash of physicality which is, hey, should I come to this campus? Does it make me feel stimulated? Does it have a vibe of today? Does it make me feel as good as what I would feel if I'm in an Australian university or an American university? I ran a school of design for 10 years, from 2010 to 21, 10, 11 years. Our proposition was a French institute, which we I co-founded along with my French partners. Our proposition was a professional experience blended with education. So all our faculties, 100% were all professionals, delivering what it means in the universe of language, education of branding, visual communication, strategies, etc. And we delivered fabulously. Today, 245 students are there, from 3 to 245 in 7 to 8 years. That's what the number was called. I think now there may be more. And of course, it's a very expensive education. But we had to create campus, the branding, the advocacy, and its digital presence in such a way that it stimulates this young generation in such a way that they feel that, hey, I think I'm getting admitted in France only. There is a lure of that education still in our country. And like going back to sir, what you were saying earlier, if you also have to create this, India being a very strong proposition in the context of education, then we need to bring in some sophistication in how we present ourselves. It's really about that.
That's right. See, the once 30 seconds. ITI, NIOS have got a brilliant syllabus, brilliant way of doing, and I am convinced about it as an education. as Ravi says, it is always important that the good things need to be projected in a better way so that more and more people get to know about it. That is his view about it. What I would like to know from you, ma'am, what do you think?
I guess it's very it is difficult to say no to what you all have said. Yeah? That yes, it needs to be presented. But I'll go back to the ITI example. So when I was as I said, I was looking at the DSCU and so on and so forth. So I visited some ITIs, and I met this girl who was in her 8th month of AC repair. So she was learning AC repair and all. It is such a lucrative field that while she was in her 8th month, and it was only a 12-month course, she was already earning 15,000 rupees every month by doing part-time work. So, so I was like, okay, that's very nice. You're earning 15,000 rupees, and once you finish, how much do you think you can earn? At least 40,000 rupees because I can work full-time. Wonderful. So what are you doing? What else are you doing? I'm registered in the Delhi Open School, whatever that is called, and I'm doing a BA in Political Science. BA in Political Science. Why are you doing BA in Political Science? Because degree chahiye. Yeah? So, and that BA in Political Science is worth nothing. Yeah, she doesn't attend classes because it is part of that 6 lakh students who get a degree without going to college. They actually, go to the university, that office, and uske bahar there are a lot of places where kunjis are sold, key books are sold. They buy them, they invest money in buying those books, and then just before exam they actually enroll for tuition. And then they write the exam and then they pass, right? They learn nothing. Yeah, it's just an exam passing thing and they get a degree. My point is, so what my understanding built through many such incidents was, in India we are a degree hungry country, right? So I think it's really important that whether we are doing ITI, whether we are doing Polytechnic, we also figure out ways, like you rightly did, sir, by putting the NIOS course curriculum there, to create a degree or a viable certificate out of it, right? So that is what will add to the advocacy, that will add to the brand.
Exactly.
Yeah?
It must be there, no, sir? NIOS certificates which you are giving, is it equivalent to the
12th, 10th and 12th.
10th and 12th.
10th and 12th, yes.
Do you have a graduate course or anything like that? You don't
Open
have?
school is for schools.
Only for
Only for
schools.
IGNOU is for higher education.
So it is equivalent.
IGNOU degree is equivalent to any other degree. Yeah? Like NIOS degree is equivalent to any board.
Any other board. Okay.
We have 62 school boards in India. NIOS is one of them.
Okay.
Central government has 2 boards, CBSE and NIOS, and rest are with the state governments.
So that is a very important point now with the question to Dr. Sharma, is about the kind of a curriculum, the delivery of the curriculum, and the kind of a vocational skill development incorporated into it, and the National Institute of Open Schooling, all keeping that in mind. What Dr. Vora also said about creating a kind of a value proposition for the entire course activities involved in the NIOS or ITI or any such courses which is done by the government. Same thing like what Mr. Ravi was mentioning about, the presentation of such a good thing to the people out there. That is what is going to help us. All right? Is that all right? Permission to go for? The next question is to Dr. Vora. You've been connected with skill development for quite some time. You've been explaining it also to us. So the question to you would be, skill development is always seen as a blue collar kind of a proposition. People think like that. I'm not saying it is true or false. People, how do you think it can be there, or can there be a different way or approach of thinking towards this kind of concept, and what could or what way this can make a brand resilience?
So, when we started DSU and we started offering these bachelor's level courses, some of my courses were like, for example, a bachelor's in safety and hygiene management, facilities and hygiene management, right? Now, facilities and hygiene management doesn't mean that you are going to be the person cleaning the floors, but you learn about it and you supervise, the entire building management. Now, and we had courses on, let us say, beauty and aesthetics. It's a course, it's an entire field, extremely huge in economic value, but only certificate and diploma courses exist at the informal level. So for example, you can get a beautician certificate, but there is no bachelor's level course in it. So we actually created a bachelor's in beauty and aesthetics, because there is enough science and enough things to learn in it. So there's dermatology, there is physiology, and there is chemical engineering. All of that you need to learn to be actually a beauty and aesthetician. So we did all the course stuff and all that. Now when I would talk about these courses to a lot of my friends and so on and so forth, they would say, अच्छा course है, मेरी driver के बच्ची को बताती हूँ. Yeah. So immediately it was for the driver's kids, yeah, or it was for the maid's kid or whatever it was, not for their kids. Yeah. While in reality, as sir is saying, if you go to many schools, whether it is the DPSs of the world or the pathway schools of the world, there will be children sitting there saying, I want to be a beautician. Yes. I want to be, yes. But there is no acceptance of some of these these areas of knowledge and practice. So in my mind, I think if we really want to, I think brand or making these attractive to the hoi polloi of the society is really important. And for that, we will need to be able to tell the story in a way that it moves from being for my maid's kid to my kid. That's very important for that. Because at the end of the day, skill is not just blue collar. It is not just for the people who are poor. Skill is something that every one of us can learn. So whether it is, branding as a skill, or coding as a skill, or sculpting as a skill, or carpentry, or beautician, everything requires a certain amount of knowledge and a certain amount of practice.
A very important point that you've noted. I would like to add a point to it, ma'am. I was connected with an institution. I'd been to Finland to learn about the educational programs there. The kind of importance the country is giving to vocational education is humongous. And they don't consider it as a waste. They have a stipulated curriculum and they are proud to say that this is what we do. And you have to please understand that the NEP also will be touching upon most of the things that Finland has mentioned about vocational education also. In fact, I should say our country has been doing it for quite some time, but somehow or the other we were not projecting it that well. So like what Madam says, the courses are very important, and the way we are going to grant these courses the significance that they deserve and publicize it among the people, that may help the course become a resilient one. Dr. Sharma, would you want to add something to it?
Look, We need to educate the society as well.
Yes.
For 200, 300 years, rather last 1000 years, we have put all the creative areas of the society on the back burner. Look at some of the icons. Large number of students, as ma'am says, large number of students now want to become chef. Why?
Yes, yes, yes.
We
Very true.
created a couple of good chefs who made a name in that field. As we go ahead and we do it, and that is why we have included 10 days of bagless attachment right from class 3.
Yes.
Ma'am said she visited Finland. Both me and Sarita had gone to Finland, visited the schools. We were in fact invited by the Finnish government. And I must tell you that idea in the national education policy comes from our visit to Finland. Because I was a member and I emphasized what we have done. We said, let any combination be taken by the students. That's the Finnish model.
Yes.
A student studies mathematics, carpentry and music. Why not? Because we always looked at a degree from the perspective of job. ये पढ़ के क्या नौकरी मिलेगी? हम ये नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी के बाद बंद कर रहे हैं कुछ करना. आप अगर आके कहेंगे कि मैं ग्रेजुएट हूँ, मुझे क्या नौकरी मिलेगी, हम यही पूछे कहेंगे आप ग्रेजुएट हैं, जाके काम खोज लीजिए. Why should it be the nation's job to give you a job? You are a graduate, you should be able to do so. So that idea comes from there. But it will take time because we are college children. उसने ये कहा, अंग्रेजी जानते हो ICS बनोगे, अंग्रेजी जानते हो बाबू बनोगे, नहीं जानते हो तो जाके चपरासी बनो. हमने बदला है. आप लोकल लैंग्वेज जानते हैं, आप साहब बनेंगे, क्यों नहीं? इसीलिए हमने मदर टंग में एजुकेशन किया है और कहा है कि सारी भाषाओं में बच्चों का मदर टंग होगा. अनफॉर्चुनेटली उसको बहुत अच्छी तरह समझा नहीं जा पा रहा है. बट आप अपनी भाषा में काम कीजिए, अपने विचार में काम करिए, अपना जो शौक है उसमें काम करिए और दुनिया का बेस्ट बनिए. 1 मिनट और दीजिए. एक बच्चों का कार्यक्रम आ रहा है संगीत का टेलीविजन पर, आई एम फॉरगेटिंग द नेम, सारेगामा होता था. और the girls who went up to the top level were not Hindi speakers. They were all from Bengal. This has a trigger in your national education policy. जो बच्चियां स्कूल में राइट प्राइमरी से म्यूजिक सीखते आई थी, वो नेशनल प्लेटफॉर्म पर आके टॉप कर गई. हिंदी बोलने वाली लड़कियों को हिंदी गाना में पछाड़ दी. अभी चल रहा है बच्चों का कार्यक्रम, मैं बड़े ध्यान से उसको देखता हूँ. एक केरलाइट बच्चा है जो एक भी शब्द हिंदी के नहीं समझता है, और जब वो गाने उतरता है तो हिंदी का गाना बिल्कुल मातृभाषा की तरह गाता है. आपकी राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति में यही है. हम ये चाहते हैं और इसलिए लिखा है राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति में, आप म्यूजिक पढ़ें, डांस पढ़ें, साथ में जर्मन पढ़ें. ये जो बच्चे जर्मन में गाना गाएंगे, जर्मनी में जाके, वो 6 करोड़ आबादी का देश हमको क्या पछाड़ेगा? हम फ्रांस का म्यूजिक इंडस्ट्री, फ्रांस का एंटरटेनमेंट इंडस्ट्री, जर्मनी का इंडस्ट्री, रशिया का इंडस्ट्री हम टेक ओवर करने वाले हैं. हम अभी तक केवल अंग्रेजी और IAS पर पड़े रहे, अब मार्केट खुल रहा है.
Very true. It's very sad, sir. What you said is exactly. We have to change.
2040 इंडिया भारत होगा.
Sir, 2040 तक हम मैं नहीं रहूंगी ना sir. You will remain now. Wow, good. Thank you, madam. Credit goes to you. Great. God bless. Ravi, your views. Your views, Ravi.
So there are these amazing things happening, and I'll continue to hang in with the point of, these beautiful narratives have to be advocated and bundled up in a very elegant argument and projected in its dignified way to the people. Now the other point of the English versus the rest of the language, while I appreciate the sentiment around it, I think one of the reasons we have also risen to this level as a nation is also because of English.
Exactly.
And not because we let our mother tongue or our national language depart away from us or anything like that. I think if Sundar Pichai is a Google head, it's probably a lot to do with them feeling, comfortable with him as his, prowess with the language, and of course with his wisdom in technology and so on. And so is Satya Nadella, and so is many people who are going out and conquering the world. I think English is our advantage. It's not a disadvantage. It's perfectly fine, and we must embrace our local language, our mother language, our national language, be comfortable with it, and feel very proud of it. But I think English has been our weapon, and we shouldn't desert it.
Okay. So what we discussed here is about the question skill development is an inherent process of developing one's own identity by doing something which is so special to him or her, and then taking it along as a life skill development activity. And what Sir and Ravi had been adding to that is that yes, there are students who are so skilled, they may not have a language capacity, but they are so skilled in various activities. Hindi as a spoken language or any other mother tongue as a spoken language, I am also not against it, sir. But I think, as Ravi said, English has not let us down. It has only helped us. So we have to recognize that aspect as well and take all the children with varied skills in this scenario and help them to discover their own potential. Coming to, yes sir, yes sir.
All these are sitting here and not calling them Sundar Pichai, it is because of English. एक आके यहाँ खड़े हो और अंग्रेजी में मराठी से बेहतर बोल के दिखाओ. ये हमारी भाषा नहीं है. ये सब सुंदर पिचाई हैं जो अंग्रेजी से डर के मंच पर नहीं आना चाहते हैं.
Very good, excellent. I said we are not against mother tongue. We are not against. I learned, sir, I want to register one thing here. 1 second, Ravi.
While I'm saying English is must, it's our weapon and it's our journey in order to truly conquer the world. Incidentally, let me add a two bit. I can sing in Marathi, I can sing very well in Hindi.
Exactly.
And can speak very comfortably in Hindi.
Exactly.
So, and I love both languages.
You see,
and I also love English very much.
Yes. I want to tell you, I come from a very small village in Kerala. And the mother tongue is Malayalam. I learnt till 10th standard only in state school, Malayalam medium, not even one word of English. When I went into college studies, I was ridiculed because I did not know the language English. So as a vengeance, as a kind of a vow, I took it up and learned and mastered that language to such an extent that I can easily communicate with the people. And today, if I am sitting in various positions across the country doing several things, I would say to a large extent the credit goes to the language that I have learned, whether it is through pressure or not. So what I am trying to say is that given a chance to me, I will sing in my mother tongue. I will sing in Hindi because Kishore Kumar hits and Lata Mangeshkar are favorite to me as well. That is all different. But when it comes to a profession, little bit of a knowledge of international language English is a very important thing. Otherwise, why do schools start international school? लिखता है कुछ भी international नहीं है उसमें. Campus तो sometimes the campus also may not be there, but they all write international. This is actually to move the parents, to get the students, and English medium students. I have been helping a group of schools in Pune, and when I conducted a survey among the villages of Pune, they say, हमारा बच्चा, they have to speak one word in English. तो English medium में भेजना चाहिए हमको, उतना ही चाहिए. So even parents are towards that. So let us not do away with English while upholding our mother tongue. Coming back to the question to Ravi, the second question is about the caption I would like to give is the digital presence and the brand perception to you. The question is, how can educational institutions bring the digital platforms to improve their brand perception, like the social media or whatever you are talking about. Today people are all into it, you know very well, they engage that very well. With the tech savvy Gen Z and Alpha generations, how can educational institutions balance this integration?
See, there are few things that have happened on our planet now has gone out of our control. Okay? The emergence of social media and what it has done, some good things and some terrible things. But that has already started to happen, and it's nobody can control it, honestly. A lot of kids who are in their 18s or mid-20s might have been born when there was already internet, there was already emails, and then subsequently by the time they've grown to 6 to 8 years old, there was Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all of it. So whether we like it or not, or how we see it from our own perspective, the reality is they're growing up on the fodder of that. Their connectivity with their friends, their connectivity with the rest of the world has been through this medium. And that is also now, because the medium is available in the deepest pocket of the planet, the smallest of village to any city, you can access internet, you can access social media, you can access, any platform through the power of internet. We have started to become more global. I mean, whether we like it or not, there are certain influences coming in. And that's the way this Gen Z, and they're growing on that fodder, that they're growing on that noise, they're growing on sometimes some good things, some terrible things, but that's the way it has been. Now, in the context of, education institutes making connection in this universe of digital world, they will have to be a very strong, sound and robust presence, almost like when I go onto that website or whatever platform you created or an app you created, I have to feel I have entered into that university. I have entered into that environment that you thought I must create in the physical world. The entire conversation should reside within that virtual space. Combined with enough anecdotes, enough wonderful information, enough success stories, enough wisdom, could be parted with a lot of content. A powerful, engaging, entertaining content penetrates. And even if it's about education, but being said in a way that charms people into buying it or persuades people into considering it, it does work. So a lot of virtual medium where you use stories, where you do the campus tours, like I said earlier, you create a sense of physicality through the power of virtual medium, and exploit every asset that is available within that universe for you to have an impression about your institute as a brand made in the minds of people, because that's when you are truly in touch with them, whether they've yet chosen to be with you or not.
Is there anyone who doesn't have a Facebook account? Is there anyone? All of you have, right? And what is the first thing when you wake up in the morning you do? How many likes you have got from anyone with a different photo of yours or something? Isn't it? That means you are glued to social media, knowingly or unknowingly, and that's what Ravi is also trying to say, that we are living in a compelling world where the presence of social media, electronic media or internet or websites or podcasts, nothing, everything mentioned over there is part and parcel of the alpha generations or Z generations. So you cannot do away with that, that's what he says. So why don't you make use of these powerful media to make a brand presence about your institutions? Whatever great things that you are doing, good things that you are projecting to the world, doing good to the students, use these social media, am I right?
If I may add just one more thing.
Yes.
Most of the time, digital communication has been more like transactional communication, and it's most brands are also guilty of it. You know, they aren't really creating stories or communication that also prevails with a point of view. Brand has something that has a substance versus, you know, you'll see ads like admission open or, you know, some headlines about an institute. Not much deeper, richer stories or the narratives that could be advocated through the power of the YouTubes and
so
Instagram.
can I say that you are talking about the powerful content?
Yeah, so powerful content which is based on the truth. I'm not saying again create something untrue or frivolous, based on the real truth, but funneled through the mediums that this generation is comfortable with.
Okay. Ma'am, Dr. Bora, what do you have to say towards this?
I totally agree. We can't get away from it. So what we can't get away, we adopt. Okay, adopt it to the best of our for the using our understanding and wisdom, use it to the best.
And be careful.
And of course.
Of course. Okay. Sir?
I'm reminded of Macbeth. We are in sin. We are in sin, stepped in so far that returning whereas tedious has go over. We have absolutely no choice.
You are a literature student, sir?
Was. I'm an educationist now. We are in technology so much, we cannot return. But the issue is not that. Technology changes every 6 months. Who will afford it? The digital divide. I'm not also much worried about the hardware divide. I'm more worried about the content divide. Niharika Bora and CV Sharma are available at the tap of a button. आप आ सकते हैं क्या? हाँ कब आना है जल्दी बताइए, आ जाएंगे. जरा ऑक्सफोर्ड और कैम्ब्रिज और हार्वर्ड के प्रोफेसर को बुला के दिखाइए. MIT का एक प्रोफेसर 2 लेक्चर साल का करता है, $1 बिलियन चार्ज करता है. उसके एक लेक्चर का कॉस्ट है 5 लाख रुपया. टेक्नोलॉजी क्या करेगा? वो तो खरीद लेंगे, इस प्रोफेसर को कहाँ से खरीदेंगे? मेरा जो इशू है वो ये, आप अपने देश में मशीन तो ला सकते हैं, आप ये प्रोफेसर्स तैयार कर रहे हैं क्या? जिसकी चर्चा ये कर रही थी सुबह में, और तभी ये हो रही है. Don't worry about the technology, we take care. We have the brightest youth in this country. अगर हमारे IIT ग्रेजुएट दुनिया को जाकर के कॉन्कर किए हैं तो हमारे यूथ ये कर सकते हैं. लेकिन जो हमारे सोसाइटी और गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से होना था, इंस्टीट्यूशन क्रिएशन, इंडिविजुअल्स क्रिएशन, इस पूरे टेक्नोलॉजी का क्या परिणाम होने जा रहा है? आई वॉज वेरी एनामर्ड बाय हर लेक्चर कि कहीं भी रहें क्या अंतर पड़ता है. ये लेक्चर अहमदाबाद से कर रही हैं, औरंगाबाद से कर रही हैं या न्यूयॉर्क से कर रही हैं, लेकिन क्या हमने क्रिएट किया है इनको? जो इनको जरूरत थी, आवश्यकता थी, वो दिया क्या देश ने? वो नहीं दे रहे हैं. सो मैम, technology is not the issue. In the future, the brand would be the name, a person, professor such and such, जिसको हम सुनना चाहेंगे. I'm reminded of the Clark Kuzma debate on technology. Technology is only a carrier. It only carries the message that you have. How good a message are you creating? That's important.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for that. They are showing the board 5 minutes, so I have to wind up also. Now to all of us, to all of us, one question I would like to ask you is that beyond school and academics, how much do you see the brand resilience can reach beyond school and academics? Do you first of all believe in the brand resilience? Or if you believe it, how much it can go beyond?
Look, when it comes to brand, I don't subscribe to the definition of brand what prevails in the market context. In education, this brand would be different. That brand would be named. That individuals that we create in institutions. So that brand will definitely work.
Okay.
रोमिला थापर को कौन धो सकता है? योगेंद्र सिंह को कौन भुला सकता है? टीके उमर को कौन भुला सकता है? जो सोशियोलॉजी पढ़ा है वो टीके उमर और अंद्रे पेटेल को कैसे नहीं पढ़ेगा? हम जो एजुकेशन में काम करते हैं, हम सोशियोलॉजी के स्टूडेंट नहीं है, अंद्रे पेटेल को हर दिन पढ़ते हैं, तो वो हम आइकन्स कहाँ बना? वो ब्रांड की अगर आप बात कर रहे हैं, if we're talking of individuals as brand, I agree to that. But I don't really subscribe to the idea of institution creating brand of an institution for other means. आपने एक भी एडवर्टीजमेंट दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी का, जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी का देखा है? We are offering these courses. Please come and take admission. They don't require.
So that's good, sir. Actually, what you mean to say is that the quality is the hallmark of all educational institutions, and that should be the branding. Great, sir. One last question to you, ma'am. As an educational leader, do you think the personal brand of that leader would influence the education's existence per se?
So, always worried about personal brands. Yeah, because I think there is, and rightly or wrongly, I think that requires projection, that requires selling. And therefore, I would be worried if one thinks about, again, the same thing, the brand of a leader, right? What happens when they go? What happens when they are not? What happens if what they did at some point backfires, right? It can actually come to haunt everyone worse off. I think some of this is built in retrospect. Like Ravi Mathai was not a brand when he was the director. He's become an icon after he's left, right? So because we remember him by what he's done, by what he's left for us.
But is that not inspiration you call it?
It is inspiration for us now, yeah. But I think if he was marketing himself as a brand at that point of time, it would have been a disaster.
No, that none of you will do.
Yeah.
Now, nobody will do it. No leader will do brand himself. But the way they walk, the way they do things, that itself become a brand icon. This is what they did, like what Ravi Mathai did or anybody else did.
Yeah,
right?
in retrospect we remember
so
them.
So we take that as an inspiration. The institution, the members of the institution take it as an inspiration. That was my question. Right?
Yes, so they do. They do. I think the fact that Ravi Mathai was somebody who was seen walking in half-sleeve shirt and shorts in summer in the campus still inspires a lot of faculty to walk like that on campus. Yeah? And it doesn't matter because it's not their clothes that matter, but it's what they do that matter.
Are there any questions? Do we have time for it, Namrata?
No time.
We have no questions. But I have one small question to complete, is that we are talking about this branding and perception and all that for as far as private institutions are concerned. Do government institutions go in for branding?
Do you want an honest answer?
Yes.
Who cares about education?